Welcome to the Center of Light Radio with spiritual teacher, intuitive, musician, composer, and best-selling author of The Divine Principle, Anchoring Heaven on Earth, your host, Keith Anthony Blanchard.
Yes, this is Keith Anthony Blanchard, Center of Light Radio, Center of Divine Unfoldment and Reinforcement. Strap in all ye spiritual astronauts as we launch for inner space. Today, I want to dedicate this show to a dear friend of mine's wife, my brother Profundity in the chat room. I want to dedicate the energy and the power and my passion and my love and all the beautiful energy that's going to come through Center of Light today. I want to dedicate this to Kathy, Native Earth Lady, also known as. This is my gift to you, brother, and the importance you are to me, and you're always being here and your support for my work. So there you go, Kathy, just for you. Some news here about Swamji, God Realized Man, coming on Center of Light Radio in August. It just has been confirmed that we will, if everything aligns right, I did get permission to do a live video broadcast of my interview with Swamji Viswayogi, God Realized Man from India. I've interviewed him in the past, and he is the real deal. And you can bet I'm going to use this opportunity, this platform, to ask all the questions as the spokesperson, I guess you can say, for everyone. And I'm going to do a lot of meditation around these questions because I want to find that which is most important, that which is most crucial for our evolution and the place that we sit on planet Earth today, to make the changes accordingly so we can become effective. So we can become effective in helping humanity grow and get out of this quagmire, which seems to be so present at this time in our evolution. Also, I'm still waiting to get the feedback from Nucleus 8, my alien-human hybrid friend. I'm sure he's going to give me that information soon. And, you know, if you've returned to the Center of Light, if you've heard this show before, you've probably heard me mention his name here or there, probably because about getting him on the show, or if you heard my very first broadcast here at Inception Radio. This is a very real experience that happened for me for 4 years, hanging out with this cat, able to do things to me, in front of me, through me, while I'm in a full-blown state of waking consciousness. What an amazing show that will be if we can get him to agree to it. Nucleus 8 is head of security, 27,000 light years, a planetary station. He's head of security of this quadrant of our galaxy. You can check out the first interview. Go to centeroflightradio.com and go to the archives to hear that amazing broadcast. Make sure, again, go to Center of Light Radio website. You do that at centeroflightradio.com. You hear all my past shows. You find links there to KeithAnthonyBlanchard.com, where you jump seat. You can check out all my creative works, my books, Do What You Love, the movie about my life, which is really about your life, empowering you with the tools that you need, so you can use those very things and create the life that you desire, the life that you deserve, the life you were born to live, bringing passion into your life, creating peace in your household. If everyone would do this, peace could sprout throughout the world in no time, because everybody is focused on their joy and doing those things that they just really get a kick out of. Let's see. Notes, always notes. I like to be a little prepared, but I like to leave some wiggle room. Let's see. Here we go. If you want to call into the show, I saw some people in the chat room ask about that. Make sure you dial 888-919-2355. That's 888-919-2355. Remember, if you're not at home and you're not by a computer and you want to hear your favorite show, you can go to the App Store on your phone and download the Inception Radio Network app for free. Everything is right there at your fingertips. Chat room, listen, live links, news, podcasts, much, much more. There are many, many ways to connect to Center of Light Radio and Inception Radio Network for sure. Let's see. Center of Light Radio and Inception Radio Network would like to welcome aboard Professor Eric R. Williams with his show Psychology's Outer Limits on June 7th. I think that happened sometime a couple weeks ago. And also Patricia Baker with her new show Supernatural Girls Now it's time to get down to Center of Light radio business. On the Center of Light today, my guest is going to be Susannah Furr, and we will be discussing meditation. Tune in and power up. This can be a life-changing show for you. In my 3 years of being in radio with a spiritual platform, I never consider, I just haven't had happen, an interview on the topic of meditation. Shame on me for that. Let's get down to business and find out exactly what is meditation. The definition of meditation: to engage in contemplation or reflection, to engage in mental exercise as concentration in one's breathing or repetition of a mantra for the purpose of reaching a heightened level of spiritual awareness. To focus one's thoughts on, reflect on, or ponder over. To plan or project in the mind, intend, purpose. When I first got on my spiritual path some years ago and introduced to the idea of meditation, I would meditate 3 times a day. And magic and miracles began to happen. And as I began to see these manifestations, my belief in what was happening would elevate. And so therefore the manifestations would elevate and get bigger and happen faster. And then my conviction would elevate from that reflection. And this became an ongoing, expansive period for me. Make sure you go to keithanthonyblanchard.com and download the free Anchoring Heaven on Earth audio meditation. Check it out. It's done by myself. There's some really cool music. I do suggest headphones for the panning effects that happen, some subliminals that happen, all positive. You can hear them also. There's no worries there. As I said, today's show is a life-changing show. If you happen to be in a place where you're somewhat stuck, heck, if you're a master or you're working towards your mastership, meditation is the key. Something that came to me right before the show that I feel is very, very important, that'll set up the tone, and we're going to get to my guest here very, very shortly. I think the first word a child should learn is not mommy or daddy. It should be meditation. The first discipline a child should be taught is meditation. For doing so, young children would never lose their connection to Source or God. That happens over a period as one is inundated with thoughts of limitation and separation from the outside world. They would stay connected as they are when they first come into the body. If this can be done, world peace would happen in just one generation. Meditation is such an important discipline to better one's life, to bring about the joy, peace, and bliss all human beings were born to experience while residing upon the earth. My guest today, Susannah Furr, M.E.D., is a licensed professional counselor with 25 years of experience in the counseling field. In addition to counseling, she has taught many courses in meditation, attuned others in Reiki, facilitated workshops and retreats, and utilizes her highly developed intuition, trust me, she has it, to conduct intuitive consultations. Susannah's mission is to be a loving witness and guide for others who are awakening their hearts and seeking to balance and integrate the fragments of self into wholeness. Welcome to Center of Light Radio, Susannah Furr.
Thank you, Keith, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here and to talk about this.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you for being the person to bring meditation to my platform, Center of Light Radio. I'm really, really grateful to you for that. When did you first meditate? What time period was this for you in your life?
Oh, this was when I was in my 20s and I first started, at that point, I just was always interested, even as a teenager, in the metaphysical, mystical teachings. And of course, every book I ever read back then and still today always talked about meditation, or someone explaining when I was meditating, I had this vision come to me. And so I quickly, once I realized that it was something I needed to do, I found a meditation class when I was a freshman in college at Tallahassee at Florida State. And so that's when I started learning how to meditate, and it's been a lifelong process, and honing and coming to a meditative technique that feels really comfortable and right for me. And I started teaching meditation way back when too, in my late 20s, early 30s. I started a meditation group in my town I was living in, and just every Sunday night we met and we would meditate, and then we maybe discuss books that we were reading and a study group for metaphysics. So it's been a part of my life for a very, very long time. And what I'm finding really exciting right now is that it's finally like the mainstream has been catching up. I think yoga studios have done a really great job of that, And but science is also catching up, because there was just a recent article that came out in the Washington Post, and they're coming out in all kinds of mainstream media about that meditation. I mean, the title of the particular article was meditation. Harvard neuroscientist: meditation not only reduces stress, but here's how it changes your brain. So there's been a lot of brain studies now. They've really been looking at longtime meditators and their brains compared to non-meditators' brains, and it's pretty fascinating. So they're really validating the mystical, metaphysical branches of science. I call it spiritual technology, and it's pretty exciting because they're. And then also, I'm finding that people are seeking me out more and more to teach them that. So with my individual clients, I always teach every single client meditation, practice it with them in session till they get the hang of it. And also teaching meditation at a nearby recovery center, substance abuse recovery center, because research is showing that it has a positive effect on relapse prevention. It can really help with that. So it's just wonderful to finally see it coming out more and more, and it's not just considered something that maybe a yogi would do in a cave at the top of a mountain. Many people are doing it now. And I love what you said about it needs to be taught in schools. I've been saying that forever. It should be from day one, from pre-kindergarten, kindergarten on. It should be part of everyone's life. Children learn this, you're right, the world would change.
It would change in a generation. You and I discussed what we would talk about. And so we titled the show Meditation. And then you and I both gave our parts for the subtitle. You said tune in, and I said power up. And it just made sense that you tune in. Makes sense that you tune in and power up. And it's truly like plugging into the cosmic generator. A lot of people believe that Buddhist monks in Tibet, that they are meditating to relax. Yeah, right. They're quite relaxed already. They're dropping into the cosmic dialogue.
That's right.
And I'm sure you can attest to this. Meditation, when you find yourself submersed in meditation, meditation, you breathe in whatever particular pattern that you choose to. And the idea is to bore a hole through the ceiling of thought. And once you get to that magical, loud, deafening silence of meditation, that's where all the really, really cool stuff begins to happen. Because now that you got through all the noise of the mind, the right, the wrong, the left, the right, the good, bad, up, down, in, out, all that duality stuff, now you're in this profound silence, this profound wholeness, where you are actually able to hear God's voice. Be still and know that I'm God.
Exactly.
And this magical place, when you get there, you feel electrically charged. It's because you are now aware of your own spirit. You're now aware of your own energy. You are now aware of your own light body as to why you feel that buzz. But I found not only is it good for all those things, it's such an amazing place to create your life. And the analogy I would like to use, and I would like to get your thoughts. Yes, we live on this earth plane, and yes, some of us have jobs, and we go to work 9 to 5, or we effort certain things that we want to bring about in our life. So we do certain tasks that brings those things. Well, if you can liken taking that approach to your life, efforting and doing things to make things happen, parallel that with, say, a Cessna airplane. It flies however many 100 feet over the earth, and it moves at a particular speed of hundreds of miles an hour. And yes, you cover a certain amount of distance in a certain amount of time. Now, meditation would be likened to getting into the space shuttle and getting into an altitude that is just way above the earth, getting, quote, high. And you can still travel at the same distance. My point is, you will cover so much more ground because of your perspective. And therefore, when you launch yourself or into the space of meditation, those things that you want to bring about in your life is no longer about struggle. And one particular exercise that I use is I imagine I'm sitting by a still pond and I pick up a stone and I kiss the stone and I put my thoughts in this particular stone of that which I want to call to me, and I throw the stone in the pond and it creates a ripple effect and the ripple comes back to the center. And so I found meditation to be a very, very powerful tool to use to deliberately create. What are your thoughts about that?
Oh, I completely agree with you there. I think it is our direct link, like you said, to our divine selves. For me, it's like that divinity, the electrical charge plugging in. You know, when we so much of the time we're like human doing. We're not human beings. We're humans doing, and by that I mean we don't have our. If you had like just something that you plug into the wall, it's unplugged, and we're running around, and we're not recharging our batteries or recharging our batteries like we would for a cell phone. And so the act of sitting down, the intention of being quiet and still and focusing on the breath. I'll go into more like mindfulness if you want me to, and just being with that and letting the thoughts. Let me just put out here that there's a common misperception about meditation. And when I teach it, so many people, it's inevitable, even if I say in the beginning, don't try to resist your thoughts, don't try to push them away, because that's too much effort and you're trying too hard. People inevitably still do that because they hear, these stories that we're talking about how you reach a place of utter stillness and quiet and that you hear the voice of God. And so people are so impatient to get there. And they're expecting to get that immediately. Some people do, but I'd say the majority of people don't, because it's learning how to focus. And learning how to focus is just flexing that focus muscle in our ability to concentrate, just like we would not expect that our first trip to the gym would result in these amazing biceps. We have to work at it, and we have to do it every day. And it's the same thing. We have to learn how to focus our attention on one single thing, like the breath. And the breath is so easy to focus on, or the perfect thing to focus on, because it's so present moment. We're always breathing.
God breathed life into man.
Yeah, we're always breathing unless we're dead, right? As long as we're in a body.
And then you're on the other side for sure.
Exactly. So what I tell people is, try not to have high expectations, and don't expect immediately that you're just going to be in this still place, because initially, like you were saying earlier, that the thoughts are going to, there's just going to be this, like a radio just constantly playing. And it's kind of hysterical. It's kind of funny at times that the thoughts that will start generating. But the whole point is that when you keep focusing on the breath, and then you refocus on the breath after your attention's wandered off into thinking, then you refocus on the breath again. The attention wanders off into thinking, you refocus. That's meditation. That's the practice, is always coming back to the moment with your breath. And the breath is the anchor in the present moment. And the other thing about, and I'm speaking mindfulness in particular meditation right now, the other thing about it is that you're paying attention that particular way to the breath, focusing on that in the present moment. And the very next key is with non-judgment. And what we find is that when we meditate and we watch our thoughts, we start to develop this observer, this very fair witness that has no judgment toward anything, which is very key to a happy life, happy, joyful life, is stop judging ourselves and other people. And once that happens, we're just being in the moment, just breathing, staying with the practice. And And then we start to observe that our thoughts will be, it's sort of like a radio playing in the other room. Might hear some negative things coming out of it. And then you refocus. I'm in this room. I'm breathing. Those thoughts just are in the background. Eventually you reach that stillness. Not everybody can get there right away. And I try to tell that to people so they don't become discouraged if after 2 weeks of meditating, they haven't reached that stillness. I mean, some people don't reach that place of complete silence for years of meditating. And that's okay, because the whole point is they're also, once they realize that just that exercise of focusing the mind is what it does, is it grows, as the scientists are discovering, neuroscientists are finding out, it grows very important parts, the gray matter in very important parts of our brain, and shrinks the gray matter in parts of our brain that are related to too much stress, like the amygdala. That part of the brain actually decreases in matter the more one meditates, which is good, because then we're not putting out, unless we need to, immediately have that adrenaline, because like there is truly a life-threatening situation happening. But for most part, that's not the case. And in our modern world, our amygdalas are way too active, the part of our brain that the fight, flight, freeze response. It's way too active. And that's why there's so much stress-related disease and disorders, because of the too much activity there. So the meditation actually grows the gray matter in the neocortex, the higher mind, the part of our minds where we make decisions and and stimulates compassion and empathy and joy and decreases depression. I mean, it's amazing what it actually does. So, and then the icing on the cake is one day having that experience you were talking about, Keith, of complete silence and going into that emptiness, which is really not empty but full, and you know what I'm talking about. So it's pretty exciting what's happening now, and that people are really turning on to it and realizing that we've been walking around automatic pilot. Really, I call it being asleep. I kind of think also that the zombie movies that have been coming out are sort of a way of reflecting that we're just not plugged in and awake and aware that we're such powerful beings. And the way we connect with our power is through sitting still, concentrating, focusing on the breath, letting go of judgment and just watching what comes and goes, and letting things flow through instead of getting caught up in the stories in our mind that creates
totally
stress.
Something else that meditation will do for you. Swamiji Viswayogi, that's going to be here in Center of Light really soon in August. God realized man knows exactly what we're talking about right now. If he chose to project his consciousness here, he can repeat it back to you. Point is, he spent 21 years in meditation to Lord Dattatreya. And lo and behold, in one particular day, through this meditation, he was popped open and became the embodiment of the very deity that he was meditating and showing discipleship to. And so meditation is your ticket back to source, back to creation. Something that another particular Indian guru that I follow, he said that the only way to experience true well-being is to turn inward. This is what yoga means. Not up, not out, but in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The way out is in.
That's it. That's so key.
And I got another one for you. One of my favorite bathroom graffiti writings that I saw sometime recently. It said, meditation, it's not what you think.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I have a great quote here.
Go ahead.
Can I read a quote from Thich Nhat Hanh, who's, very famous Vietnamese Buddhist monk, who actually has a monastery about 20 miles from where I live and from where you live too, Keith. I don't know if you're familiar with it, Magnolia Village Monastery.
No,
Thich Nhat Hanh, okay, he says, you have an appointment with life, and that appointment is in the present moment. If you miss the present moment, you miss your appointment with life. That is very serious. Please practice mindful breathing so you can return home and encounter life.
Wow, that's really, really nice. Really, really nice. Let me ask you this, Susannah. I have noticed when I was first meditating those years ago, the guy who whispered metaphysical things in my ear, he guided me in a meditation. And he assured me that we were gonna achieve the objective to get me to that silent space. But before we got there, he pointed out the things that could possibly happen and that they were all resistance. For example, as you start breathing, the mouth may get metallic and dry. Don't stop and get water. Keep breathing. Your skin may itch. Don't scratch. Keep breathing. The phone may ring. Believe it or not, I have experienced this time and again, not only with myself, but people that I have worked with. They go into meditation the first time they ever try to do it, second time they try to do it. And events will begin to manifest themselves as the mind's way of saying, do not come in here and monkey with me. So if the phone rings, keep breathing. So the point is, the mind will create these resistances. And so what you can do at that point is pick up the breath, be more intense with the breath. Instead of from a gentle breathing in and out, start moving breath, open the mouth, 2 fingers wide if you have to, and breathe intensely like you are salivating for God. In other words, that's your intention, is this kind of breathing that you want, quote, it. And I found that all these resistances begin to fall away. But also, have you ever noticed that as you learn to meditate, and you've been doing this for so long, that when you can formally meditate, that's awesome, but that you don't really have to do that so much anymore because so much of you has shifted that your life is always being grateful. Your life is always being meditative. I mean, you now have your disposition is completely turned. And so your disposition is now in a meditative state. And so you're living your life from an open-eyed meditation perspective, yeah?
I do find that. I do. But I actually find that I'm meditating more now than I used to. Just because I've actually taken my practice even deeper, and I want to see where it leads me, because I experienced a 10-day silent meditation retreat at the beginning of this year. And in that retreat center, in that 10 days, there's no talking, there's no reading, there's no writing, there's no talking on the phone, there's no computers. You're just you and hours of silence, and which is really not silence, because you find that there's just so much noise in the mind. And so when I experienced that, it took me to a much deeper level. And because of that, I've been actually meditating more. But I know what you're talking about, Keith. I do feel I'm more present. I know that I'm really in the moment as more than I ever used to be. Mindful, aware of what's going on, way more intuitive, all those years of meditation and being in a mindful frame of reference for my life, just like the antenna, your ability to tune in to all kinds of different levels and dimensions increases. So yes, I mean, I feel like life is a meditation. But it just because you asked me, I'm going to have to tell you the truth. I really am doing it more just because it's a different technique that I learned at that retreat, and I want to know where it's going to take me. It's pretty amazing, actually.
Yeah, so. I understand. Your life may be meditative because you've been meditating for so long. There is something to be said for sitting down, or however you choose to meditate, and plugging into the cosmic generator. One, you have the benefits of the body, you have the benefits of the mind, the benefits of the spirit. You can astral travel. You can use the meditation to create those things that you want to bring in your life. There's so many benefits. You take miles off of your spiritual journey. Your awareness begins to span. Magic begins to happen in your life. The number to call in today is 888-919-2355, 888-919-2355. And my guest today, Susannah Furr and I, we are speaking about meditation. Tune in and power up. Susannah, would you please give out your contact information to the listening audience of Center of Light Radio so they can find out more about you and your fantastic work?
Thank you. Yes. Well, I have a website. It's it's the words Now Awake Now. So it's spelled NOWAWAKENOW.com. And so you can go to my website, and there you can learn how to contact me. My email would be Susannah, SUSANNAH, at nowawakenow.com. I also have a Facebook page, Now Awake Now. And you can find out how to reach me by phone if you go to my website. And I would love, one of the things that I love to do is actually guided meditations, which is different from what I was talking about, my own practice, but of sitting silent and just watching the breath. But a guided meditation, as Keith, and many of the listeners know, is where you're listening to a CD and you're being directed on what to do next, and how to breathe and what to visualize. So I do sometimes still I do guided imagery meditations, specifically for people who are asking for me to tune into them intuitively, and just be able to help them listen as they listen to the CD over and over and use it as a meditation. It helps them to kind of unlock some things that are maybe blocked inside themselves, and to release certain fears and strengthen what they already have as a gift and a talent. So I do that as well. And welcome contact with any and all of you. It would be great to discuss this and to answer questions or your comments about meditation or about anything else that comes up.
I'm glad you brought that up. People always ask me, how do you meditate? Well, YouTube comes along and says, we're going to make it really easy for you. If you don't go to, which you should, go to my site and download, it's free, Anchoring Heaven on Earth Meditation, as well as make contact with Susannah about her work. If in a moment you need something right now because you're about to go to bed, YouTube has tons of meditations there. There are guided meditations. There's some chanting stuff. Something that takes your thoughts away from the world. And something I did want to bring up and ask you is, often people, another form of resistance, will say it's difficult for me to meditate. One, because you introduce that word. Of course it is. But I understand the idea. It can be difficult because there's so many sounds outside. The guy cutting grass, the phone rings, or whatever may be going on external from you. But that's actually a benefit because of contrast. If you're hearing all this noise on the outside of you, it does give you a focal point of what true silence is, because you're the one that is observing the outside noise because of your silence. So you're actually on the mark by raising such a question.
Mm-hmm. I totally get that. Yeah, sometimes what I say to people is, if I'm leading a meditation and let's say there's a loud noise happening outside the building we're in, I'll just say, whatever sounds you hear, translate that and to see them as just sound waves. They're moving through this room and through the area, and see if you can, instead of having any reaction to the sound, because that's what we'll do is we'll hear something, we'll immediately label it as an unpleasant noise, and then we're judging it. There we go, judging something. And so I just say it's just a sound wave, just like it's like if you were to feel a breeze on your skin. Okay, that's just breeze on your skin. Noises are just sound waves floating through, and you're the meditator. You're the one who is observing. I love that you use that word because I use that a lot. You're the one observing everything that passes through your awareness without resisting it and without attaching to it. And there you go much deeper into that, flexing the muscle of becoming the observer. Instead of being the thinker, you are the one who observes thoughts. So it's just for anything. It could be any sensory input that comes in that one becomes aware of. It can take you deeper into the meditation, just like you were saying.
So how does one meditate? What is an idea, an example of someone who may be beginning a meditative practice? How can they go about it?
Well, I would start with just finding a comfortable chair to sit in. I wouldn't recommend lying down because it's too easy to fall asleep then.
Yes,
especially at point because you're slowing your brainwave at frequency. So if you start to go into from the beta level, which is waking consciousness, into alpha, which is you're still awake, but your body is relaxing. Once we do that every night when we fall asleep, and then every morning as we wake up. So when we go into alpha, a lot of times our bodies think, oh, it's time to go to sleep now, especially if we're lying down. So I recommend you sit comfortably in a chair or on a mat or pillow on the floor, you're keeping your back straight and your arms are relaxed in your lap. And then just to close the eyes and begin to focus all the attention on the breath, turning your mind toward noticing the breath. And then you let your breathing do its own thing. Now, the kind that I'm telling now is just a mindfulness meditation, okay? So you just let the breath and the body breathe itself, because it does. We do not normally think about our breath or focus on it. So when we focus our attention on the breath, we're basically focusing on a function of the body that happens naturally without us having to pay attention to it. Now we're bringing all our attention to that, and we just notice the sensations of breathing as it flows into the nostrils and as it flows out. Or we can notice the expansion of our rib cage, and our bellies will expand on the in-breath and contract on the out-breath. And we're not trying to control the breath. We're just letting the body breathe itself. So sometimes the breaths will be long and deep, and other times they'll be short and shallow, and we're just observing it. And then simply from here, what's going to happen is the mind will want to wander. Attention wants to wander away, which is another form of resistance. And usually it'll wander off into thinking about something. So once we've realized our attention has wandered away from the breath, we just gently bring it back to the breath again, over and over again, without judgment towards ourselves and toward the practice. And sit there and do that for, I recommend 20 to 30 minutes. I personally do it for an hour, but some people have to work their way up to that. And even if only a person can only make time in a particularly busy day for 5 to 10 minutes, that is great. Just as long as there's that focus, as long as there's that just turning the attention to the breath and letting the thoughts fade into the background. Now, we're not pushing thoughts away and we're not attaching to the thoughts. But when we find that we have attached to thoughts, that means we started to think. Then we come back to the breath and let it go. I like to use the out breath to just release that attachment, just let go of whatever the thought was, and then return to just being and observing that wonderful sensation of breathing in and breathing out and just being still. And that's what I would start with if you're brand new at this, or even if you're not. I mean, if it's, if you're a master, like you said, if you've been doing this is such a complex, such a simple sounding thing, but a very complex thing to do.
It's infinite because, what lies within us all is infinity. Everything is possible in there. Like I read earlier from Sadhguru, he said the only way out is in. And the very first time when I told you that my friend was putting me through that meditation, introducing me to metaphysics, He was really getting me to push my breath so I could break through some blocks, some resistances that were showing up. And because I was laying down, I did black out for, I'm guessing, 30 seconds, what felt like 30 seconds to me. Took a quick little nap. So I thought, excuse me, and I had no idea what transpired in that brief blackout phase other than believing that I just fell asleep and now I'm back awake and continue with the breath, listening to his instructions. The very next night, I go to play a gig at a local bar here in Memphis, and I see a friend of mine coming to the front door by the name of Tammy, and I'm way across the room, and I'm waving at her. Oh, hey, girl, nice to see you. Thank you for coming, kind of thing. And I gestured for her to come over. And when I saw her, I had a total recall. In that period where I blacked out, I left my body, and for whatever reasons, I found her. And I found her and her boyfriend who was with her at the club. And after they got settled, now keep in mind, she is of a religious background. And I'm coming up with this meditation and leaving my body stuff. And I said, I got someone I want to ask you. And I really want you're honest. She goes, oh, Keith, is it that crazy spiritual stuff? I said, actually, yeah, it is. But as your friend, I'm asking you to play this out with me. She said, okay, sure. I said, did you go somewhere yesterday, 5-ish o'clock? She said, yes, I did. Okay, please don't say anymore. I said, I saw you. She goes, what do you mean you saw me? I said, I saw you. I was in your car hanging out by the dome light of your car. And I saw you wiping the inside of this car with, and I said, a piece of white cloth. And I said, but what was odd, how often do you go somewhere and you allow someone to drive your car? Not very, very often. And Tammy's the type of person that wherever she went, she always drove. But on this particular day, as I'm observing the situation that's unfolding, I saw her wiping her seats with this white cloth. And I said, but some reason you were sitting on the passenger side, you had brown pointed shoes on, you had pleated blue jeans, you had a shirt, you had this particular pendant on, and she's looking at me like I'm crazy. Like, there is no way on this earth that you can possibly know these things without being in my car physically to see this. I saw the whole thing, and come to find out, they went to the mall. The night before, she left her window down, so it rained in her car. She said, Keith, the towel's still in my back seat. She wiped it with a white towel. She threw the towel in the back seat. Her boyfriend, Philip, sitting next to her in the club, was driving. So the point is, through meditation, there are so many benefits for those who like to astral travel. Meditation is your rocket fuel.
Yes. Yes. And, think about it, Keith. I mean, haven't we always heard our whole lives that we only use, 10% of our brain? Well, it's because we weren't taught, and generations of, especially in the Western world, were not taught, maybe on purpose, not taught, this very key to unlocking the door of the whole cosmos within ourselves. And so perhaps that's what's, as we do this, I mean, as we sit and watch and focus on our breathing and keep refocusing every time the mind wanders and keep coming back, this is the thing that's going to activate those hidden higher gifts that we have, that up until now we're thought, well, we don't know what 90% of the brain is for. Well, now we're finding out, or science are finding out. The mystics and the great mystics and masters have known for eons and epochs now, but we are at this point now where we can really wake up when we have the tools and exactly all of those things: astral travel, telepathy, clairvoyance, all the clairs, clairvoyance, clairaudience, claircognizance, every single one of those things will begin to flower in us. All of us. Our tuition will grow. We'll just know things without knowing why we know things, and our hearts expand. That's so important. I mean, our hearts, our ability to love ourselves, which then spreads out to other people. We can love other people more unconditionally, and I mean, it's so important. I just love the fact that you said, I can't believe I haven't talked about this on a show in 3 years, because this is really the key to it all.
Buddhist monks say that, for example, if you just close your eyes now and imagine you want to be in Hawaii, they will tell you as soon as you have the thought, you are in Hawaii. Now, your task to make that happen, to be more present of this place that you are projecting yourself, is through meditation, because as you think, as soon as you use your thought process, you are truly willing something into creation. So some part of you is already there. It's your job to begin the integrative process through meditation. For example, speaking about my alien human hybrid friend, Nucleus 8, he told me, he says, Keith, recently he and I had a conversation. He says, you are on my planetary station more often than you can possibly imagine. I said, am I there in spirit? And do you see me, my energy? And he said, no, Keith, that's all true. He said, but you are here physically. He says that when you play music live and you get into one of those zones, when you and your bandmates are finally settled in and you're doing things that you could never rehearse to pull off, that this magic begins to happen. He says you turn on just like a light bulb. But yes, and he says you truly become physically tangible in this experience, because somehow I'm connected to him as to why I keep launching myself there, and that on levels that I'm not aware of. Some cases I am very aware that I'm present there. But again, it supports the point of how Buddhist monks say that when you begin to think of a place that you want to visit, you are actually beginning to anchor yourself there. Do you practice alternate breaths? For example, the Buddhists may do in and out through the mouth, in through the mouth, out through the nose, in through the nose, out through the mouth, in through the right nostril, out through the left nostril, and advice. I mean, there's all these different combinations, and every combination will take you to a different place/space inside, a different dimension, because of the dynamic or the different breaths you're using. Have you experienced or even practiced different breath techniques?
I have before, and that's not something that's not my regular practice. But I've been in different classes where the teacher is teaching that, and I think it's really fantastic. I haven't had any unusual experiences because of that, but I do understand what it's doing. And for me, I'm just really drawn to what's keeping it simple, and perhaps if I, had a guru or a teacher or master who was teaching me this particular technique and the alternate breathing, nostril breathing, and all of that, and began to deepen into that, I'm sure I would, because I know that that's valid. They're all valid, all the different ways. What have you done that, Keith? What you were talking about?
I've done some of the different intakes and outtakes. What I have done, are you familiar with rebirthing, and have you done that?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I am. I have.
I've done it, and it requires discipline. It's not basically just sitting there and nonchalantly just breathing. It's breathing yourself into oblivion,
yes,
kind of thing. And you start moving that air. And we talked about resistance. When you start doing this kind of meditation work, or it's still considered a meditation because you're going inward and you're breathing. But when you begin to do this kind of work, your hands may just start hurting very excruciatingly.
And they start going into this ketosis position.
Yes. And it's because we have lots of control issues, and the hands represent the ability to grasp or control. And so they go into what's called tetany. It looks like, your hands are becoming, so what I'm looking for, atrophied.
Yes.
And the idea, as with meditation, don't worry about the resistance. Keep with the breath. Now, what you can do from that point, when these episodes of tetany, which is your knees hurting, your wrist hurting, and all these things begin to lock up, is because keep in mind, you are bringing in pure light energy. You're bringing God into your body. And when you do that, everything that is not representation of God or light or balanced energy, it's like a capacitor, or it's like a resistor in a transistor electronic system. The energy begins to block. So what you can do is you can either just back off the breath a little bit and your hands become comfortable, or you can use your will to move some of that congested energy around, or you can up the breath some more and just blow that channel completely open. But after about 10 minutes of that kind of breath, serious breathing, and really opening that mouth and getting at it, your body literally takes over the breath. It becomes automatic, and you get to sit back. And you do this for about an hour and a half. And when you're done, the level of bliss that you are left in is truly divine.
And I recommend having a partner with you so that someone can be sort of just with you. And plus, I know the kind that I've done, the holotropic breath work, is they played really loud and amazing music in the background. I mean, right there, so that kind of it stimulates and evokes. You know how music, of course, is so evocative. These different processes. So exactly what that's a whole other show right there. Somebody, talking about holotropic breath work and rebirthing, because that's very healing. What I wanted to say really quick, Keith, is the resistance of sitting still and watching the breath and being the observer and keep refocusing back on the present moment with the breath without judgment. Is the resistance is the ego mind. The mind, our egos have to feel like they have an identity. The ego has to be wrapped around an identity. And so the ego is really our ego mind is what resists this, because it knows instinctively that it means the changing and transforming of our identity. And that's always, people, we don't like change. It's really the ego that doesn't want change. The ego wants everything predictable. We want it to be as it should be. And so any kind of change, any kind of transformation within ourselves is going to be resisted by that. So like you said, just stay with it. It's not this particular way that I'm teaching is not it's a very gentle way. Let's put it that way. It's very gentle, very simple, but very profound. And of all the different kinds that I've done throughout my life, to return to the most simple, basic thing has been the best thing for me. And just because I realized, oh my gosh, that's really the key. That all along, the very simple has been the key to it. And I've gone all around and done all this really crazy, wonderful, fantastic stuff, like the holotropic breath work. I love that, and I would do it again. All these different things that are sort of would be like a hallucinogenic journey, I mean, we can actually do that sitting there very simply, breathing normally and watching it. Eventually, these things happen, and our gifts expand exponentially.
Yeah, it's always about getting back to basics, because basics is the foundation. If you build a house and your foundation is not level, or whatever the situation may be, your whole house is is vulnerable to collapse. So, for me, meditation should be everyone's foundation. It's back to the basics. It's simple, but it's very, very expansive. If you use meditation, let's say you're approaching meditation because you want to learn to relax because your life is stressful. It will do that, but also you will be receiving benefits, even though if you really don't care about the other benefits and you're using it just for relaxation, those benefits will happen regardless. So you don't really have to meditate with becoming spiritual mindset and trying to have a goal. Your goal is the breath, and the breath will create the results, and the results will speak for themselves, and the fruit will speak for itself. You will know them by the fruit, and people will ask you, what are you doing in your life that you seem so calm when all I've ever known you was to be just sporadic and nervous and afraid and all these other things. But meditation is home. It's our home base, really, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. It certainly is. It takes us home. Yeah. I love that.
What is coming down the pike for Susannah Furr?
Oh, let's see. Well, I don't have any major project. I'm kind of at a point of opening there's a lot of spiritual growth happening in me right now, because I'm involved in different spiritual groups that I've been studying with, and studying different spiritual technologies. too much to go into right now. But so I just feel like there's, more and more awakening, more and more connection. And I'm learning how to be more and more present and in the moment, and out of the stories in my mind that create the illusion that I'm separate from life and from others. And so I feel like this a really big breakthrough is happening for me right now. I can't put it into words very well at this point, but it's pretty exciting. And I think it's really a direct result of all the meditating I've been doing. I can feel things cooking, you know what I'm saying? And so, but I'm very, actually, what I do in my daily life is I'm very, I have a pretty thriving private practice for psychotherapy. And I also do intuitive readings and make meditation tapes for people or CDs or MP3s. And just following the call of my heart here. So that's what I did when you asked me to be on the show. It's like, of course, yes. Just love spending time with you, Keith. This is fun.
Oh, you're awesome. Can you leave us with a final thought?
Welcome home to your heart and to the center of your being, where Creator, where the divine resides, by simply sitting still and breathing in and out. Welcome home.
Everyone, Susannah Furr, my guest here on Center of Light Radio. Susannah, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me on, Keith.
That door swings open to you anytime.
Yeah. One of these days, I'm going to get up there and see you in one of your clubs performing. I want to see that.
It's going to be loud.
Maybe I could ride with you to go visit the alien hybrid guy, you know?
Yeah, he's...
with on your music. That's what I mean, like, ride with you.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, we can actually set that up. I'll let you know where I'm going to be. Oh, well, you don't have to know where I'm at, but I'm going to let you know that I'm going to be playing on a particular night. If we start at 9:00, I'll know that I'll start settling in as far as getting into that zone, that meditative zone where magic just happens. Probably 20, 30 minutes into this first set, and then you can start your meditation and we can meet there. And maybe we can join forces and with the intentions of making contact with Nucleus 8. And we can give him the heads up to let him know that we'll be doing that. And he can use some of his 6-dimensional multi-awareness probably to help us become truly aware of being present at its planetary mothership station. Wouldn't that be cool?
I would love that. Sign me up for that. Okay.
All right. Yeah. Again, Susannah, thank you very much. Everyone, Keith Anthony Blanchard here, Center of Light Radio, Monday nights, 6 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. I will be behind this microphone interviewing the most amazing guests, enlightened beings, people who walk the talk. They have done the work. They have done the meditative work. They have done the spiritual requisite work, inner, extensive, and intensive soul cleansing, mind cleansing work. I love being a channel. I love being of assistance to helping people grow, to uniting the family that we know as humanity. This is what I'm here for. This is my passion. This is my gig. Next week, my guest is going to be Vanessa Lamorte. Very young, beautiful woman, and she is on fire. She's connected to many, many different star civilizations, many different beings throughout the cosmos. And I know the dynamic. Most people think, yeah, I kind of believe it. I'm sure some people, no, I'm telling you, this is real stuff. And she's going to present to us the language of light. And she's going to be talking often in the language of light. But also, this is going to be a multimedia show. I'm going to give out the Center of Light Radio website. And I'm actually going to post on the website these imageries that come through her that she not only paints, but she's going to tell you what they say. And it's going to be a phenomenal show. She is just going to blast you with brilliant ways of energy. You can bet on that. Oh, I'm so happy to be here on Inception Radio and doing this wonderful, wonderful show. I want to thank everyone in the chat room, all the audience members throughout the internet system, all those who are listening in on your phone. Thank you for being here at Center of Light Radio. Remember when you lay down at night and you're doing that meditation, Breathe in and out. Breathe as if you want something that is beautiful in your life. That's kind of the space you breathe from. And just know that the real you, the real authentic you, the place that has truly never left home, heaven, the other side, your origins, whatever you call it, is right there behind that breath. That's where your magic lies, is right behind the breath. And always remember as you do that, ease into bliss. Keith Anthony Blanchard, good evening.